This demonstration we're going to have a look at the Edge Transport Server anti-spam functionality. So we'll start off with the first option here, which is content filtering. So if we right click and just have a look at the properties, what we can do with the content filtering is various options for the content we want to filter. So if we have a look at custom words, for example, I can allow messages containing these words or phrases, or I can block messages containing these words or phrases. If we have a look at the exceptions, we can say don't filter messages sent to the following recipient, so that may be postmaster at or administrator at. And then in case of the action, we can decide exactly what to do with anything we consider to be spam. So what's happening here is we have an anti-spam engine running, and as we can see, we're going to delete messages that have an SCL greater than or equal to, let's say, 9. Reject messages that have an SCL greater than or equal to 7, and quarantine messages that are potentially, let's say, 8. So anything that's a SCL greater than 8 will quarantine that. I'll just turn those ticks off. We can also specify as well the quarantine email address as well. So if we do quarantine anything, we can send it through. And as we can see down at the bottom here, anything that is stamped with a 0 is very unlikely to be spam. Anything with a 9 is very likely to be spam. So we can get the content filtering to do these analysis and then decide exactly what it considers to be spam. So we'll click OK here. We've then got our IP allow list, and the IP allow list does what the IP allow list says it does. It allows SMTP servers to connect to our SMTP server. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click the add button, and on the IP addresses, what we'll enter in here is we'll just type in 10.10.0.10, which is an SMTP gateway we're using. So what we'll do there is we'll just click OK, and then we'll click OK again. We've then got the IP allow list providers. I don't have one, but what I could do here is specify the provider. So this will be an online entity that will provide me with a list of IP addresses that it considers to be safe. If we go with the block list, we can have a look at the properties here, and this is things that we don't want to receive mail from. So what we'll do here under blocked addresses is I'll just add in the IP address of 10.10.0.12. So never let this address expire or block it until a certain date. Well, I'm fairly happy that this is completely unsafe, so we will block that IP address. Click OK here. Again, we have an IP block list provider, so very similar sort of thing. So we can add in the real-time block list provider, and in the case of the exceptions, we can say don't block messages sent to the following email addresses, regardless of what our online block provider says in the case of their lists. So we'll cancel that one off there. So we've got all of this in place. Next thing we have is we have recipient filtering. So if we just have a look at recipient filtering and have a look at block recipients, so we can block messages sent to recipients that don't exist in Active Directory by default, and we can also block messages sent to the following recipients. So potentially this is an internal only email address. We don't want anybody sending from the outside world. We've also got sender filtering. So in the case of this, blocked senders, so we can block messages from the following senders. Block messages that don't have sender information. And in the case of the action, what do you want to do with the message? Do you just want to reject it, or do you want to stamp the message with the block sender and continue processing? So I'll cancel that one off as well. Next option we have here is we have the sender ID. Now if I right click on this and click on properties, what we can see is we've got the action. We can say if the sender ID check fails, take the following action. So reject the message, delete the message, or stamp the message with sender ID result and continue processing. Now this is all to do with SPF records that we have set up on DNS. This protects the people that we send mail to as opposed to us sending mail out. So what will happen is we'll send an email to an individual. Their mail server can then check against our SPF record. That'll just verify that the reported sender is actually valid, so it is our mail server. In order to do that, we have to create a DNS record that will allow this functionality to work correctly. So what I'll do here is I'll just move over to my Active Directory domain control and DNS server and set up one of these records. So we'll just cancel that now. Okay, on my DNS server, so all I'll do here is come into admin tools, come into DNS. Once I'm in DNS, I'll just go to my forward lookup zones and go to contoso.com. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to create another new record. And the record I want to create is a text record. So scroll this down a little bit. What we have here is we have a text record, so we'll just create the record. And what I'll do here is fill out the relevant information. So what I've done here is I'll put in v equals spf1 ip4:10.10.0.40-all. What this is actually specifying, it's configuring the sender ID filter to accept connections only from the 10.10.0.40 for contoso.com domain. Normally, I'd configure this entry on the DNS server that's responsible for my domain on the internet. So now I've done all that, I'll just click OK and I'll click Done. Okay, the next thing I need to do is just go back to NYC server 1, which is my Edge transport server, and set up the sender ID properties. Right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm just going to right click, go to properties, and what we're going to say here is we're going to say reject messages if the report is not correct. So now we've done all that, we can click OK. Last thing we've got here is sender reputation. This is where the server learns. So what it will do is it will perform an open proxy test when determining the sender reputation level. What we can then do is, based off the reputation level that comes back, we can decide exactly what to do with the email itself. Click OK at that point there. What we can also do as well is you can configure content filtering settings, and we'll do that through the Exchange Management shell. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to set up a quarantine mailbox of alan@contoso.com. Right, so we're going to set the content filter config. We're going to specify the quarantine mailbox to be alan@contoso.com. So we've now done that, so we'll just come back to the Exchange Management console and we'll just enable the content filtering. So that's all done now. We'll just right click on this and have a look at the properties. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to come to the custom words again. This time we're going to allow messages containing these words or phrases to come through. So what we'll do here is we'll just put in mortgages. And we'll add that in there because everybody wants a good deal on the mortgage currently. What we'll also do as well is we'll just say block anything with the words poker coming through there. So we'll add that one in as well. And then what we'll do is, just in the case of the action tab here, what we're going to do is we're going to quarantine messages 7 or above. We can see that alan@contoso.com has been picked up through the command line. And we'll reject messages that have a SCL of 9 or greater as well. We'll now click OK at this point here. And we've now configured the anti-spam. Now, probably real world, you'll probably have some sort of online solution or you'll have some sort of automated solution. Just remember, these anti-spam settings have to be manually configured. And that's the end of this demonstration. Thanks very much.